Hi there, you're still watching the Joy News channel. My name is Haruna Mubarak, and it's been a couple of days now since the National Democratic Congress unveiled their manifesto, of course, which captures the sports. With me here to discuss it extensively is a member of their sports committee, Edem Agbana. Edem, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mubarak.
How have you been?
You.
Yeah.
Great.
I think the last couple of days has been busy for you.
Exactly, very busy receiving calls from your colleague journalists across the country, and it gives us a certain level of confidence and hope that indeed the good people of Ghana have accepted the message of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC, and so everyone is interested in knowing what we have for lovers of sports or for the sports fraternity, and so I'm happy to engage you. Welcome.
Thank you. Now, in the manifesto, we saw the document, and it consists of some 10 pointers with regards to sports. What's influenced the decision to arrive at that particular 10 policies? It captures sportsmen, women, the Ghana Premier League players, facilities. Yes, what was the reason behind that?
Well, the NDC as a political party has a vision for the good people of Ghana. We believe that sports is an important driver of national development and national integration. And that is why, even when you look at our constitution, under the directive principles of state policies, sports is captured as one of the key drivers of national integration. We have come to the realization that sports is one of the sectors that we can use as a country to provide jobs, promote development, and to put it in a more general, holistic manner, promote development. So we needed to look at sports as a whole, from the very basic level to the national level. What are the challenges that the sports fraternity or the sports ecosystem is confronted with? We analyze all of that, and bearing in mind the challenges we have in the economy now, we decided to propose a 10-point solution-based agenda to solve some of these issues. And like you said, this 10 points encompasses issues relating to the individuals, i.e. the sportsmen and women, and issues about infrastructure. You see where we are today? Look, every corner of this country, there are great sporting talents. What they lack is the facility or the infrastructure to develop their talents. Look at us here this whole afternoon on this pitch, Sakura pitch. But see all these young boys that are playing. They have the talent. They have dreams of becoming the Cristiano Ronaldos, the Lionel Messis, the Michael Essieans, the Emmanuel Ajimambedus, the Lai Kinsons, and what have you, Stephen Appiah. They have those dreams. And their dreams are being nurtured on this Sakura pitch. It will be extremely difficult for them to get to that level easily without the support of government and indeed the private sector. And that is why our vision is anchored on building infrastructure and also looking at the individual sportsmen and women, their welfare. Let's begin with the issue of salaries for footballers.
Yeah, Ghana Premier League Division 2, Division 1, and even codes.
And the codes team. Now, this is what happens. I am a football administrator of many years. And I can tell you that, very sadly, there are some players playing in the Premier League today who receive less than 400 Ghana cedis monthly. There are some even very popular teams with players who have not been paid for a year or two, because football is a very expensive business. I run a sports academy. I have a team in Division 2. And if I show you my pay slip or the amount of money, expenditure outlook, the amount of money we spend to maintain the team, maintain the players, catering for players who are injured and all of that, people do question whether it is even worth the investment, then I tell them it is worth it. So many clubs are struggling to maintain even a good team, the quality of play. Many clubs are struggling to even pay their players, and that's why you hear in the news even sometimes players of very popular teams in the Premier League are complaining that they have not been paid for years. What can government do? His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC believes that, looking at this challenge, leadership is about priorities. And so just as government is able to provide stimulus packages to pharmaceutical industries, to agro or pro-agro companies and all of that, sports must also be made a priority so that government can partner with the club owners and management of the clubs, and government can provide some support. We can call it something like a stimulus package, and through this support, players' salaries and allowances will be increased and will come to them directly. But to meet this criteria, or to be able to qualify for these packages, you must meet some criteria. For example, teams in the Premier League are all qualified to be part. But somebody who asks, Colts team, Division 2, we have several of these clubs all around. But again, every single district, we have a district football association. Yeah. So the Ghana Football Association is one of the most decentralized administrative bodies that we have, or agencies we have in this country. Yeah. There are many government agencies that you cannot even find branches at regional or municipal assembly level. But for GFA, they have people at every district. They have clubs that register every year and they renew their registration or subscription. So when you are a registered club, this subvention, this support that comes from government through the ministry to the GFA will be decentralized so that at the district level, clubs that are registered will receive some packages.
But how feasible is that? Because the players are obviously many. Even if you are to settle on the fact that each team has, let's say, 30 players, even just the Ghana Premier League, that would be over 500 players. So Ghana Premier League players, Division 1, Division 2, codes. Do you have data as to the number of players we have, Ghanaian players we have in this country? And how feasible is it for you to provide stipends for all these players?
It's very feasible. Like I said, it's the feasibility hinges on government's ability to support the GFA to do that. When you look at the amount of money the government invests even in sports annually, when Black Stars or any of the national teams are traveling, you know the amount of money that goes into it and all of that. It is just about prioritization. The feasibility is all about resources, and we are saying that currently government has the capacity to provide some support to the clubs. We are not saying that the players are going to be placed on government payroll, but government is going to give a support system.
So I say funding is not a problem.
No, it's not. It's about priority. It's about priority. Okay. So look, everything about leadership is about priority. Everything about leadership. And so whatever government decides and sees as a priority, they are able to do. So when government decides in a year that we want to ensure that there's sanitation, okay, proper sanitation across the country, because of that, they will recruit 500 people in each district to serve as sanitation officers. Government is able to find the money to pay them. Doesn't that happen? So for sports, what we are saying is that we want to prioritize sports because the global average for sports contribution to GDP is 2%. We are currently doing 1.2% in Ghana. Now, the remittances that even come from players abroad to the country is a huge source of money to the country. And so when you prioritize sports and you want to provide this support, go and check how much government has given to pharmaceutical companies and tell me whether or not government is unable to provide even a quarter of that as a support for teams in the Premier League, for teams in Division 1, for teams in Division 2, or invest properly in coast football. It is something we will do. Again, government is open to partnerships. Sometimes, many of the companies that are investing in sports are only looking for government to provide some support mechanisms. For example, if government makes it possible that all companies that are interested in supporting football or sports in general in this country, you are entitled to some tax incentives. Imagine the number of companies that will come on board to support. Now, when, for example, a telco or a telecommunication company decides to adopt the Premier League and pump in a lot of money and be the headline sponsor, and that qualifies you for some tax incentives from government, in the following season, what you will have is many more companies trying to compete to do so. Everything is about deliberate policy. We have checked the feasibility, and we are convinced that the John Dramani Mahama-led government will be able to provide these incentives to the clubs to increase payment to players in the league.
What do you make of the assertion that the government supporting clubs is not prudent because the clubs are privately run? What do you make of that assertion?
There are companies in the country, in the pharmaceutical industry, that are privately owned, but the government supports them.
Like,
we saw that in 2016, for example, under the leadership of John Dramani Mahama, Kida Pharma and some other local pharmaceutical companies, you can check the names, benefited hugely from a stimulus package from government. Many other companies do enjoy incentives from government. Even companies within the free zones enclave, they enjoy some incentives from government. So it's about priority again. Now, why are we not interested in investing in sports because clubs are owned by individuals? It is because we really have not appreciated or placed value on the importance of such clubs, and if football or sports develops, what it can do for this country. Look, it is because of sports that there are many young people who today would have been on the streets, unemployed, be criminals, stealing and all of that, but because of sports, they are not doing that. Again, in other countries, sports becomes an avenue to gain entry into even the security agencies. So when you go to Ghana Police Service today, you go to the military today or fire service, there are some men and women in uniform whose qualification or whose entry into the service hinged on their capacity or capabilities in sports. And that is why people go in there to play football, to play volleyball. Some go even to play, drums, because that is what their talents are. And they use that to gain entry. It is possible to do same here in this country. So you see the military team, they have football teams. You see the police ladies recently, they were succeeding or excelling in the local league and all of that. So it's about us placing proper value on sports and recognizing that even media houses sometimes receive support from government. We should be able to invest in sports because it is the right thing to do.
now let's look at away from football to the other sporting disciplines, athletics, tennis and what have you. In your manifesto, it's been stated that you intend to provide scholarships to talented sportsmen and women. Do you have criteria in identifying those talented individuals?
It's quite easy. It's quite an easy thing to do, and we are happy that during the discussions on this particular policy, some of us gave insight into what is happening in some institutions. When you go to the University of Ghana, for example, aside the normal admission process, where people are admitted based on their performance in the WASI, they also hold an event to screen sportsmen and women. So the likes of Azameti are products of that kind of system. I was in Legon when Azameti was admitted at Legon. At the time he came in because of his ability to run. And so the university identified him as a potential, and they support some of these sportsmen and women and place them on scholarships. Look, government in our manifesto has decided that we want to redefine and re-establish a national scholarship scheme where all the other agencies of the government that provide scholarship will feed these resources into a scholarship scheme that will be based on merit. So just as some students are acquiring these scholarships because of their academic excellence, and because they are from needy homes, people who are able to excel in sports should be able to also acquire some of these scholarships to go abroad. And let me tell you, there are many universities outside the country, especially in America and in Europe, that are always on the lookout for sports talents to grant them scholarships. So I recall when I was at the university, there was a gentleman who was so good at playing football. We went for the inter-university games, and universities outside Ghana sent scouts. They scouted him, gave him admission, gave him scholarship, and he was playing in America for that university. And so these things are quite easy to do, and it is being done elsewhere. So identifying these sportsmen and women, young athletes, high jumpers, athletes in any other field, those who can do weightlifting, all of these things, give them scholarship. They go abroad, they go outside, or they stay within the country, and they have the incentives to study. So at the same time, while developing their sports potentials, they are equally excelling in their education. It is something very easy to do, and we have identified how to do that. The criteria only is that be excelling in a sport.
Now, how do you also ensure that the other sporting disciplines have a fair share, let me put it that way, of the national cake? Badminton, tennis, even women's football, because
we have identified, and it is true that currently what we have is a system that is not fair. Because
so how do we ensure?
Because
obviously all the time the Black Stars
it appears as though every attention is given to football, and even with the football, it appears as though it is only the male national team, the Black Stars, because sometimes even the satellites, meteors, and co, they struggle to get resources. That is why it's important for us to redesign how these support systems are given to the teams. And we've stated in our manifesto that we will give equal attention to what we can describe as the lesser known sports in our jurisdiction, because in some other jurisdiction, football can be described as a lesser known sport. I'm sure you know that. You can't go to a place like South Africa and describe hockey or cricket as a lesser known sport. It's big there. So swimming is big in, so it depends on the jurisdiction. We believe that all these sporting disciplines must be given equal attention, and it's one of the things that we've maintained in our manifesto. Now, the bigger picture is to look at the establishment of a sports fund, which will do proper allocation or make proper allocations to the teams on an annual basis. Look at what happens even with our black queens and the black princesses. Sometimes they struggle to even, they play so well, the black challenge, and yet the support is not there. The amputee team struggles even to get visa to travel. So these are the things we have identified. And I believe that looking at the thinking, deep thinking that went into this manifesto, and the caliber of persons that are working with the NDC's flag bearer on sports, we are people that are very passionate about the game. By the game, I'm not just referring to football. And that is why we are confident that come 2025, after President Mahama is sworn in, you will see drastic changes to how all these other sports disciplines are taken care of. We will make proper allocations for them.
Let's talk about facilities now. I think in 2018, the MPP initiated a policy of constructing a multi-purpose facility across the regions. At the moment, it's just one facility that has been completed. Is this something that the NDC would want to complete?
Certainly so. We have to, because they are needed. And if you look at our manifesto, we also stated that for the new regions and across each region, we need to have people who are able, we need to have the people identifying that they have the right infrastructure in each region to work with. And in each region where governments of the NPP have started a project of that nature, I can assure you that we will complete it. I know for a fact the Volta region and many other regions, so that's what they are trying to put at Adaklu. We will have to complete it. And President Mahama, since 2017, has maintained that as president, he will make sure that every project that is commenced by this government, he will complete it, because Come to think of it, it's not President Akufo-Addo's personal money. So abandoning projects by previous regimes is not good. It doesn't augur well for us because it amounts to wasting resources. So unlike the NPP government that abandoned all the significant projects that President Mahama started,
They are admitting there are financial challenges. What makes you think
we believe that, you see, if you are able to find money to start a new project and you tell us that you are not able to find the money to complete ones that have started before you came, it tells you that you don't have the political will. You know, we need to be sincere to the good people of Ghana. If you can find money to start new projects and your excuse for not completing the old ones is that you do not have enough resources or financial challenges.
Isn't that the reality?
The reality may be that you don't have the resources, but just as you're able to find resources to start a new one, it tells you that if you have the political will, there is a way.
So what is it that they are doing wrong?
They don't have the political will. They are afraid to compete of President Mahama because they believe it may give him some credit or political advantage. But that is not how governance is. We need to complete them. And so I'm giving you my firmest assurance that I will be in Parliament in 2025 by God's grace. And I believe that we will be part of the people who can speak confidently for government. We will make sure that every single sport facility that the MPP government has initiated across the regions, we will complete those projects.
In the next 4 years?
We will complete those projects because they must be completed. We even stated in our manifesto that for the 6 new regions, we must construct some standard pitch for them. The people in OT, Western North, yes, a stadium, Western North, people in Savannah, and all these 6 regions, they must be given some standard stadium for them to be able to also enjoy the beautiful games that we do enjoy across the country.
First of all, let me say, to continue with the manifesto, there's a portion that talks about renovating the various stadia, Tamale, Accra, Kumasi, and all that. I want you to tell me, what do you make of the maintenance of the NSA with regards to these facilities? Because I know the Cape Coast Stadium was commissioned by John Mahama, but at the moment it is not fit enough to host a Black Stars game. The Baba Yara Stadium, they are trying to get it ready. The Tamale Stadium is not ready and can't host. The Accra Sports Stadium can't. So what do you make of the maintenance level of the NSA? And how sure are you that when the NDC is in power, you guys can improve the situation?
I think that generally, as a country, we have a big problem with maintenance. Many of the government institutions, many states' properties are not maintained well. We need to develop that culture of taking proper care of these facilities. It's a conversation we must have, because generally, not just the sporting facilities. But what makes it even more challenging for us in the sector of sports is the fact that when you look at the NSA, because they are heavily under-resourced, they have resorted to looking for some creative ways of raising funds. And that is why they will prefer charging some artists who come and host a musical concert at the stadium, charging some churches to come and host prayer meetings and conventions and what have you at the stadiums or at the stadia. Why? Because they are looking for alternative sources of income. It's a conversation we need to have, because when you go to other countries, a stadium is so sacred that maintenance is given 100% attention. But what do we have today in Ghana? Poor maintenance of the facilities. Look at stadium that we built in Cape Coast, the Cape Coast Stadium, not too long ago. It's not even up to 20 years, not even up to 10 years. And what do you see? Terrible. Terrible. Look at Baba Yara Sports Stadium. Look at Accra Sports Stadium. Look at the whole sports stadium in the Volta region. It's not even befitting to be used for Division 1 matches. They are only managing. So we need to renovate. We need to refurbish all these stadia in the country. And so that is why we are of the belief that we'll renovate. And after renovation, government to put in place proper systems of maintenance. It is the only way to maintain. Yeah, we'll put in place proper systems of maintenance. There must be checks and balances on how our stadia are given out for commercial use. There are checks and balances. All these are our state institutions. When you go to University of Ghana, for example, before anybody is able to use facilities of the institution, there are processes that you go through. I have been in event organization for a while. There are some facilities after you use or before you use, you are made to sign an agreement. If any property or any damage is caused, you are made to pay, and repairs are done immediately. So we will renovate the stadium. We will renovate all the stadia across the country and ensure that after renovation, we institute proper maintenance culture so that we can take good care of them. But again, we need a national conversation on our maintenance culture as a country. Look at the National Theatre. It's in a terrible state. No proper maintenance. We need to have a conversation on how to do some of these things right.
Now, lastly, before I let you go, this is more or less away from the manifesto, but the NPP said they've done a good job on the African Games in terms of setting up facilities, in terms of Ghana winning medals, 69 medals. What do you make of the overall organization of the African Games and its ending?
Well, it's always a beautiful thing if your country hosts a continental or international events of this nature.
It's the first time
because
in the history of the country.
Because it adds up to promoting the country, and so it's a beautiful thing to do. But let's be very, very realistic. Look at the job that was done with organization. Poor organization.
Poor?
Very poor organization. Why? You were not here from the beginning of the events.
You are saying poor.
I took part. I went to the stadium. I watched some of the events. Poor organization. Very poor organization. And many of the athletes from other countries even complained about how poorly the event was organized. Now, what is even current is expenditure at the event. I'm sure you are monitoring how government is struggling to account for how much went into printing of tags, how much was spent on food. $15.2 million. My goodness. My brother. $15.2 million on feeding athletes. That is 230 million plus Ghana cedis. It's very outrageous. Very outrageous. An event that even when we finished, volunteers, many of them were not paid. You didn't see that the volunteers were demonstrating. And what are the facilities that they're talking about?
Boteman.
Boteman, yes. You completed Legon Stadium, you completed Boteman, and all of that for the Gates Village and all that. But these two, apart from that, look at the amount of money that even went into the completion of this. I've said, we need more sports facilities. So it's a good thing if government had even one. We'll be happy. But to celebrate this mediocre organization as some great job. And the medals that they say we won, take a good look at the medal table. If as a country, every game is important. Arm wrestling is very, very important as well. But if you in out of the 69, you won about 44 or so or more. 41 over 40 in just arm wrestling. How many countries participated in arm wrestling?
Sporting disciplines.
How many countries? No, that's what I'm saying, that it is a good sport. Yeah. But don't look at that and use to celebrate and say that you have that. Well, so at the end of the day, there's still a lot of work to be done. We congratulate them for hosting the games, yes. But to celebrate this mediocre organization as something that is so exceptional, and when all of us were witnesses to how the organization was shambolic, it certainly is not a true reflection of the picture.
Yeah, so,
my last word to Ghanaians,
yes,
especially lovers of sports, is that sports holds great potentials for this country. Sports is a very important driver of national development if we are able to pay attention to it and develop it. Private sector should get involved, and let's develop the game. Look, all these young boys you see behind me playing, they have dreams. If any of them gets the support to become the next Lamine Yamal and co, the Kobe Mainus and co, what these boys can do to our economy, even in terms of how much they bring into the country, will be so great. And so we need to invest in it. And I believe that His Excellency John Dramani Mohammed's vision for sports is clear, it's achievable, and it's purposive. Very purposive. We know what exactly we are about when it comes to sports. Thank you, Chief.
Welcome.
We really appreciate it. Or we should do the arm wrestling rather.